I'm going to patch up a few things before the band gets here, so I have a little head start. And I'll leave all the outboard gear in bypass so I get a chance to hear what the mics sound like without any processing. That's generally a good way to start, so you get a chance to hear actually what the microphones are really hearing. Snare top in the top distressor.
Which one? We have two.
The 57.
57?
I'm using 3 mics on the snare. I've got a 57 and a 414 on top and a 57 underneath. I have a distressor on the 57 and the 414 with pull techs after each.
More musicians the longer it takes to do this?
Yeah, well, not this initial setup. It'll take an hour pretty much for whatever is going on. But then once the band gets here, it'll take an hour or so to get some decent sounds, maybe a little more.
Oh, and what time's lunch?
Lunch is right about now. Just setting up cue mixes for the band.
And what exactly is that?
That's they've got little mixers out there to get their own mix, but we have to submix some of the tracks down to like stereos. So I'm going to give a mix of the toms and the overhead and the hi-hat and down to 2 tracks, and they'll just have it on 1 fader out there. And then mostly everything else, like the kick and the snare, will be separate, and they'll have individual controls over the bass and guitars and keyboards, and each musician will get their own individual cue mix that they can make for themselves.
So in other words, the bass player can listen to a different mix than, say, the guitar player?
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you find that they always want to hear something different, each musician?
Yeah, well, especially if the bass player, somebody who's in the room with the drums, is going to want to hear something different than if they're not in the room. They're not going to need much drums because of just what they're going to hear in the room, just acoustically. So yes, pretty much everybody will want to hear a different mix.
And does the band come late?
No.
So are you generally listening to...
I almost always listen to small near-field monitors just because it's a truer, more realistic representation of what things are going to sound like when you take them outside the studio. The big monitors can get you in trouble. If I'm working in a studio for the first time, I'll bring several different CDs that I know I like and I know that they sound good. And after 10 or 15 minutes of listening, I can get used to most monitor systems. In the next podcast, we'll go in the studio and get the band set up.